Yeah, we are in live.
So should I start? Yeah.
আমরা কিছুক্ষণ ওয়েট করব।
Um, okay.
I think we should start. Farhana, start.
Should I start? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I, Farhana Faruqi, the president of the student body of DEML, and my fellow mate, Ashek Mohammad Rumi, the vice president of the student body of DEML, are absolutely delighted to host the first ever CV writing workshop by this student body. Whenever we are applying for a job, we often find ourselves struggling while writing an organized, efficient, and sound CV. I'm welcoming you all to this amazing workshop to clear all your queries and questions you might have in regards to outlining a perfect CV. I'm quite sure that this is the opportunity that you won't want to miss. Here now is Ashik Mohammad Rumi, my co-host for today's workshop, to introduce our distinguished instructor, Mr. Samuel Mursalin.
Thank you, Farhana, for your wonderful introductions and for giving me the flow. So now the time has come that we all are waiting for, the CV writing workshop. Are we ready? Yes, I think we are. To conduct this workshop, may I request our honorable faculty member, Samuel Mursalin sir. He is a faculty of management department and also coordinator of NSU Startup and also a faculty advisor of NSU Yes. Sir, the virtual floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farhana, and thank you so much, Mr. Ashik, for such a kind introduction. So, yeah, as Mr. Ashik has just mentioned, I'm Samuel Mursalin, and the expertise of mine that is a bit more relevant to this workshop would be that I'm the Chief Strategy Officer of Bolstar. So let me just give you a brief of Bolstar so that everyone can be on the same page regarding what we are doing today. So Bolstar is a company that assists the HR departments of companies to automate their entire recruitment process. So I'm pretty sure by now you would already know that whenever there is a vacancy in the market, you would see that there are hundreds, oftentimes thousands of CVs for that just one vacancy. So companies do not often get all the time in the world to manually screen all those CVs. So this is where Bolstar comes in. So we have a tech-based solution to automate this entire process, and we help companies with a faster recruitment solution. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the technology side of things, which I have particularly reserved for the very end of this particular workshop. So we're going to build a CV from the very scratch today. So starting from writing the name to coming up with your career objective to formulating the different stages in your CV. So we're going to run down the entire process so that you get a first-hand understanding of how you can make your CV. And at the very end, we're going to link this structure with the technology solution that I was just talking about. So how is this particular format, or how is this particular flow very important for the tech-based solution that is slowly getting into the Bangladeshi market? So give me a few seconds to share my screen. All right, I'd like to ask the moderators whether my Word file is open. Can you see it? Is the Microsoft Word tab visible?
No, sir. Not.
It's not.
Anjam, can you unpin, sir?
No, sir. Still on?
Just unpin, sir, then it will be visible, I think.
So is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
It is? All right. So this is a plain and simple Word doc, right? So this is where we're going to do all our hard and grinding work today here. So the first thing is the name. Now, before we focus on the name, it is very important for all of us to understand the psychology behind this. So we're going to write down our names in this particular shade of blue, which is over here, right? And then we're going to type our name like this. It's bolded with this particular blue shade. Now, specifically, why are we writing this name with this particular blue shade? Let us just talk about that first. Now, in this marketing world, we have this particular concept called color branding. So what this talks about is certain colors give out certain different types of perceptions or impressions or different types of feelings. So let us just slightly touch upon the impressions that these colors give out. So let us just choose red to begin with. So what does the color red represent? So red represents intensity of feelings, passion, love, and so on, right? So if you see any commercial that promotes the sex appeal image, so you will see that the tonality of that particular advertisement has a lot of red in it. Now let us move on to yellow, for example. So what does yellow promote? Sunshine, friendliness, youthfulness, and so on, right? Then let us just talk about green. What does green represent? So green represents environmentally friendliness, right? So you would see that if
Sir.
there is a company that has, yes, I just saw the dock is not visible. Probably if I shift to that window, it'll be visible. Is it visible now? Is it visible? Sincerest apologies for the technical difficulty. Is it visible now?
No, sir. Still not.
It's not? All right. So I'll just share this screen again. So we were talking about the colors, right? So as I was talking about green, right? So the green color gives out the image of environmentally friendliness. So if you see an eco-friendly company or a company that focuses on recycling, you would see that these companies predominantly have green colors in their logos. Now, coming back to the color of our discussion, which is blue, right? Specifically the Facebook shade, right? This particular blue shade gives out the image of reliability, right? So whenever you see this particular color, subconsciously you feel that this color radiates the image of reliability. So when you place this CV into the hand of the interviewer, and when the interviewer sees that that particular name is in this particular blue shade, he wouldn't know consciously, but subconsciously, you will build that image of credibility and trustworthiness. So that is what we are trying to create through this particular blue shade. For men, oftentimes we recommend that in your interview, you wear a light shade of blue, right? So that image of trustworthiness again comes back, right?
Sir,
So,
sorry for
yeah,
disturbance. Sir,
yeah.
we still can't see your screen.
Okay, let me just share it again. Is it visible now?
No, sir.
It's not. What is happening with the screen sharing? Sincerest apologies to the viewers again. luck now?
Still not.
Not coming up. This is the very first time that this is happening. It has never happened like this before. Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Not.
I
Right, so I'll just take a few seconds if that's fine. Sincerest apologies. If anyone else can give me some recommendations to fix the issue.
Sir, can you share your slide through the tab?
Yeah, so I actually did that, but it's not coming up low. So the tab, then whole screen, nothing is actually working. Any other recommendations from your side? It's just not sharing.
Can you send us so that we can share it, the file?
Okay,
If
so
there
I'll
is no,
just share. Yeah, I'll just share a. So people taking a minute to send the CV. Just a minute.
meanwhile, we can say something. We have an announcement that it is not just an ending, it's just a beginning. We are also planning to conduct these types of career-oriented workshop for our department students and also to all students so that you can get idea about different career perspectives such as CV, resume, and also kind of IELTS and the public speaking workshop, impromptu speech, and a lot more. So stay tuned with us, and we will be conducting lots more workshop like this. So we are very sorry, and for this inconvenience, we'll be uh, coming back soon.
So apologies to the audience again for the technical difficulty. So the team, if you could share the file that I've sent.
I think, sir, in meantime, you can discuss about the technologies that you are guys working. Okay, I think it's sharing. Yes,
Right.
it's visible.
So, yeah. All right. So this is my CV, people, as you can already see. So I wish I could show you how I made it, but because of the technical difficulty, it is not happening at this moment. So yeah, let us just start off with the name over here. So as we have already discussed that the name, as you can already see, is in that Facebook blue color. Now, important thing about the photo over here. Now, with due respect, this is the Bangladeshi standard, right? Because the recruiters in Bangladesh oftentimes require you to post these photos. Now, that is not the international standard. So if you are applying for, say, for example, for your higher studies, for your master's, do not put this photo, right? Now, the reason behind this is we do not want to have this biasness towards the candidate because of the face of the candidate. We would want to rely on the skills, the experience, and the overall expertise of what the candidate can bring to the floor. So through that photo, we do not want to create any kind of subconscious bias into the minds of the evaluators, right? So again, in the Bangladeshi standard, oftentimes some companies ask for this, but internationally, this is not the standard, right? So that's done with the photo. Let us move on to the details that are just under the name. So if you focus on that particular part, over there you would see that the address pretty much straightforward. Now, before we start the phone number, like we always see that we write the word phone or phone number or contact number, then we put a colon, and then we write down that number, right? Now, writing this word phone or contact number or phone number is absolutely not required. So just straight away mention the contact number, because in a CV, every single letter, not even a word, every single letter is important. And when you put down the phone number, when you put down your email address, by default, we know that it's your phone number or the email address. So you do not need to write those words phone or email, right? And finally, you put in your LinkedIn. This is very important. So if you do not have a LinkedIn profile, you're not considered to be professional. So if you're applying for an internship or any part-time job, or even for your higher education, so you need this LinkedIn profile. Now, the ones who have already seen your LinkedIn profile ID, you would see that after your name, there are some unwanted letters and numbers, which you cannot see in the link that I've provided on the CV, right? So after my name, you see there is no letters or numbers. If you go to your LinkedIn, and if this profile ID is not edited, after your name, you'll see those letters and numbers that dangle at the very end. These are, again, unwanted numbers and letters. So you need to edit that profile ID and remove all those additional numbers and letters. So that is considered to be a professional profile ID. So if you apply to, again, a foreign university, those universities look at these fine details. So remove those unwanted letters and numbers. Now, we get this normal understanding that oftentimes we have very generic names that many candidates on LinkedIn can have. So I'll just give an example. Say, for example, Sadman Saqib, right? So we're just using a common name. So this name Sadman Saqib, many people can have this, right? So in that case, what can you do? So you can have Sadman Saqib and just your birthday, right? So if it is 30th March 1993, just write 30, right? So that's a professional profile ID, right? So if by the grace of Almighty you have an uncommon name, you're fine, just like me. But if you have a common name, you are just required to put in the date of your birthday. That should give you a unique LinkedIn profile ID, right? Now, Let's move down to the professional statement. Now, in this professional statement, there are specifically 3 things that you need to mention, right? So first is your hard skill. Second is your soft skill. Third is what you bring to the table, right? So the combination of these hard and soft skills, if you combine them, what is your unique value proposition? What is that thing that you can provide that 99 other candidates who are taking that same interview cannot provide, right? Now, let us just focus on a very simple example. Say, for example, so I'm not going to use the one that I have mentioned over here, but say, for example, you are writing a thing like adept in marketing research and utilized leadership, teamwork, and communication skills to conduct multiple research projects for renowned companies, right? Now, that's a very unique value proposition that straight away gives your hard skills, which is research, soft skills, which is your leadership, teamwork, and communications, and third is combining all these, what are you bringing to the table? You are bringing your unique research capability within a team setup, right? So this is the value proposition that you're creating for yourself, right? So in this professional statement, again, you're required to mention 3 things: hard skills, soft skills, and what you bring to the table. If there is a very unique software that you can use, say, for example, in the marketing research field, we have this research tool called Qualtrics. So this is a very professional research tool that researchers use. Now, this is a very unique software. So mentioning the name Qualtrics in the professional statement is important because that is your unique selling proposition, right? However, if you are skilled in PowerPoint, if you're skilled in Word, these are not your USPs. So don't end up mentioning these. So if you have a unique hard skill, only then mention that in the professional statement. Another tip of some of the words that you cannot mention in your entire CV. Doesn't matter in which part of the CV you are in. So I, me, myself, mine, right? So anything that says that this is my expertise, this is my education, this is my skill, right? Anything that mentions I, me, mine, and myself, absolutely remove them, right? Because everyone knows that it is your CV. You do not have to say that this is my CV, or I have done this, or this is my experience. Do not mention these 4 words because every recruiter knows that this CV belongs to you, right? So yeah, so that in a nutshell is your professional statement. And moving down to education. Now, for education, we want to maintain a particular format. So the format is first the name of the institution, comma. After that, you mention your school's name. So if you are from, say, for example, North-South University's business school, for example, you would say North-South University first, comma, then School of Business and Economics. That's the format, right? If you want, you can have a different format, but this is recommended specifically for the people who are very early in their professional career. Now, why is that? Say, for example, I'll just use the example that I have over here. For now, let us just consider that I am an inexperienced professional trying to get into a job. Say, for example, right? I'm not a faculty member of NSU. I'm not a faculty coordinator at NSU Startups Next. I am nothing, right? Let us just consider that. Now, when I write Johns Hopkins University, right? This carries a lot of weight, right? So if you just start off saying, some of you may argue that why not mention the program first? Why not Master of Science in Marketing? Why not Bachelor of Business Administration. Why not? The problem over there is the name of the university carries a greater weight than the name of the program, right? So if you are coming from Johns Hopkins University, or say, for example, Pennsylvania State University, right? Or Boston University. So these are all renowned universities, but you're not experienced enough. So what carries greater weight? The name of the institution. So mention the name of the institution first if you are an inexperienced candidate. If you are, say, for example, 10 or 12 years into your professional career, in that case, you can mention your position first and then the company name. Because in that case, the position carries greater weight than the name of the company, right? So I'm assuming that the audience is in their undergrad or early into their professional career. So in that case, the name of the institution carries a greater weight. So first mention North-South University, comma, and then your school's name. After that, you come to your program, and then your CGPA, right? Now, the most common question that I get over here is, sir, my CGPA is low. Can I skip mentioning my CGPA, right? So we get this a lot. Now, this is not recommended. Even if you have a CGPA that is between 2.5 to 2.9, mention that. Because right at the moment when the recruiter sees that the CGPA is not mentioned, straight away he knows that your CGPA is under 3. It's a default rule, right? So mention your CGPA, be confident about it. If you have 2.65 and you have done tons of activities during your undergrad, you have lots of courses from Udemy, Coursera, and so on. You have tons of working experience. So be confident about it, right? Do not try to hide your CGPA, because as soon as you do that, recruiters know that your CGPA is low and you're not confident to talk about that. So mention your CGPA even if it is under 3, right? So that takes care of the left-hand side of the education. On the right-hand side, the format again is city, comma, country, right? Why is that? Now, we specifically do not write the date in the first line because through this format, we can talk about our international experiences. So if you can see in my CV, I've had significant experience in the United States, right? So through this format, I can show my experiences or my expertise through that city, comma, country format. However, if all your experiences are in Dhaka, Bangladesh, it's not recommended, right? So we just do not want to see all Dhaka, Bangladesh throughout your CV. If your entire working experience is in Dhaka, Bangladesh, don't have it at all. First line, date, bolded, right? So the first lines of every activity, starting from your education to awards and achievements, to software skills, extracurricular activities, first line on the left-hand side and the date on the right-hand side must be bolded, right? Now, let us move on to the next section. Now, throughout the CV, one thing that is very important, again, is maintaining a consistent format. Now, I'm pretty sure you would come across a lot of formats, even the one that we have, with due respect, in our Korean Placement Center. Over there, you will see that the year in the education is mentioned in the middle, and the year in the other parts are mentioned on the right-hand margin. So do not do that. So if you are writing the year on the right-hand side, consistently write down all the years along the right margin, right? Because this consistency throughout the CV is very important. So if you have a consistent format, that shows that a lot of attention went into the design, right? Now, Can we move down to the software skills? Now, people, over here, how do we design this CV? Let's just talk about that first. So as you can already see that I've mentioned software skills over here over my working experience. Now, why is that? Right? Now, first thing first, before we move on to that, how do we arrange the topics in the CV? So the topics are arranged according to the decreasing order of importance, right? So your education, top priority if you are a student or a very early stage professional, right? Education first, then comes your other activities, right? So you would know as a person that which sections of your CVs are the strongest, which sections of your CVs are slightly less strong. Let's say that. So arrange those sections according to decreasing order of your strengths, right? Now, if you ask me, my strength is in the software that I can use for marketing research, because that is my USP. If you just look into the professional statement, you will see that I've talked a lot about marketing research, because that is what differentiates me from probably most other candidates. So that is why I brought in the software skills, because I am proficient in SPSS, which is a marketing research tool. I am proficient in Qualtrics, again, which is another marketing research tool, and some other infographic and presentation tools such as Canva, Prezi, Powtoons, and SlideDog. So if you ask me, for me, this section carries more weight than my work experience. So that is why I've placed my software skills over my working experience, right? Now, coming down to work experience. Now, as you can already see, the format, again, if you go back to education and work experience, and if you compare both of these, you will see the format is very consistent. On the first line, we have the name of the institution or company, right? So in the work experience, you see that North South University startups next. In the education, I had the name of my universities first. So the name of the university or your company always should go in your first line if you are a student or an early stage professional. And this format must be consistent throughout the CV, right? Now, work experience format. First line, again, company name or the institution name as we have discussed. And then along that, you write Dhaka, Bangladesh. And again, if all your experiences are in Dhaka, Bangladesh, you remove that and you write the date over there, right? So that's the first line. After that, you have to write the name of your position. So as you can already see in my CV, it's written coordinator, because that is my position at NSU Startups Next, right? So first name is your, apologies, first line is the name of the institution or the company. Under that, you mention your position, right? Now, another thing that you can mention over here, right beside the position, is your department, right? So coordinator, comma, and if there is a department, say for example, what? Operations, it could be marketing. So you can mention that operations department or department of marketing, right? So the second line goes like position, comma, name of the department, which you can probably see if you just go a little bit downwards. People, can we go on to the next page? Yeah, thank you. So yeah, if you focus on the work experience that I've had from Siemens Bangladesh, this is a better reflection of what I'm talking about. So the name of the company first, under that, my position as an intern, comma, healthcare division. So I specifically mentioned which department I've worked in, right? So at Siemens, we had other divisions like power, we had the healthcare, as I've mentioned, we had energy, and so on. So since I worked in healthcare, I've mentioned healthcare in the department's position, right? And after that, the bullets. These bullets are the most, how do I put it, the sharpest part of your CV. This is where you differentiate yourself from all others, right? The formats are just supporting activities. These bullets are the differentiators, right? So pay extra attention when we are talking about this. Now, let us just focus on the second or the first point of Siemens. So over there, I've talked about some fixed assets that I have worked on, some database management, and tons of other stuff, right? Now, a normal CV or a normal person who would write a CV would come up with something like managed database for fixed assets, right? And that's it. Then you could say for the second point, collaborated with different hospitals to come up with contracts, right? These are the points that do not differentiate you, right? It is really disheartening to say that you people have so much to talk about, but it's just that the way you word this experience in your CV just does not give out the entire story, right? Now, something that you need to mention in all the bullets that you write is a quantifiable result. So a result that you can measure using numbers, right? So let's just move out of the Siemens. Let us come up with something new. Say, for example, you people are working in a club, right? And if you are proficient in writing, and for your club, you have written tons of articles in different newspapers, say, for example, Financial Express or Daily Star, Dhaka Tribune, tons of other stuff. Now, a traditional or an average student would write something like written articles or wrote articles for multiple newspapers in Dhaka City, right? Now, when you say this, you are actually downplaying yourself. You're not giving out the full story. Now, let us just tell the same story in a different setup. Say, for example, wrote investigative articles for newspaper companies like Financial Express, Dhaka Tribune, and Daily Star. And then in the next bullet, you can say that worked with the editor on 10 business articles and 7 investigative journals for Daily Star, right? Now, same bullet with numbers, that's all. So you need to have some quantifiable variables that will measure the work that you have done. I mean, your work at the end of the day must have an impact, right? You cannot just say maintain database. So what is the outcome of maintaining that database? You need to talk about that, right? So there's this point, which is my personal favorite, which is the BBLT. So building bridges through leadership training. So if you just focus on the second point, just take 10 seconds to read that bullet. It'll be great if we are all on the same page. So just spend 10 seconds, read the second bullet mentioned under Bangladesh Youth Leadership Center. Right? Now, so what would everyone write down here? Developed training program for underprivileged women, and done, right? That's what everyone would write. However, you can still write this thing in a better way, right? So you can write down something like, say, for example, develop training programs for 18 underprivileged women, and out of those 18, 16 got full-time jobs, right? Now that's a better story, right? CV in a nutshell is you writing down the myself essay within a particular format. And if you do not give out these stories in the most effective and efficient manner, you're going to lose this entire battle, right? So have quantifiable variables in these bullets that can measure all your actions, that can tell a better story to the recruiter that, yes, this is the impact that this candidate has created in the previous organization, right? Now, you may say that, sir, I do not have anything that can quantify my results. Find out something. You must have something that has a quantifiable outcome. So focus on these numbers, right? Now, moving on to the extracurricular activities. Now, this is where my CV at this moment is a bit short-handed, because this is a CV that I made a long time back. And intentionally, again, this part of the CV is kept like this to give you another lesson. Now, if you just write down the name, Carey Marketing Association, does this tell you what I've done over there? It does not, right? If I write Carey Green Team Project, does this tell you what I've done in this project? It does not, right? Now, the core lesson over here is showing more number of extracurricular activities is less impactful than showing few activities and explaining those activities in bullets, right? So rather than coming up with 6 or 7 different kinds of extracurricular activities, choose your top 3, right? And elaborate those bullets in details with quantifiable variables, right? So if you just list down all these names like Carey Marketing Association, Carey Green Team Project, this does not give the recruiter the understanding what you have done, right? So yeah, so that was the extracurricular activities part. Now, you may have tons of other activities. You may have workshops attended, right? You may have awards and achievements. You may have part-time working experience. You may have different sections within your CV. Feel free to put all of them. However, the format again, remember that we are aligning our CV according to decreasing order of importance, right? So just one last thing before we move out of this CV. Can you please go back to the skills section, the first page? Yeah, thank you. Right, so this skills part over here, we see a lot of people mentioning their soft skills. So say, for example, ability to communicate, leadership, teamwork. Don't have this. Totally eliminate them. No one cares. If you do not have a certificate that proves that you have leadership skill, don't mention that, right? Let me be very honest over here. If I do not have leadership skills, I can still put that up on my CV. That does not add any value to the CV because I do not have a particular quantifiable result that can say that, yes, I have leadership skills, right? So don't say that I have leadership skill. I have teamwork. I have effective communication, fantastic negotiator. Don't have these skills under the software skills. You've already talked about them in your professional statement. You've already talked about it in your career objective. You still have a chance to demonstrate these during your interview. But on your CV, if you write leadership, this does not add any value to your CV, right? So do not mention these soft skills under the software skill heading, right? And a format that you can use to mention the software skills or the hard skills, which is, do not just end up writing the names of the software, because you cannot expect your recruiter to know the names of all the software that you know, right? Let me just name a few software. Say, for example, Adobe Illustrator, right? This is something that, like, you cannot expect 22,000 students of NSU to know about this, right? We can say stuff like SEMrush. We can talk about stuff like MailChimp. You can talk about Qualtrics. You can talk about different stuff. You can say Orange marketing research software, right? NVivo for qualitative research. Now, don't get lost, people. The purpose of this is to confuse you. Why is that? Because if I write these software straight away, the recruiter does not know what these software are. So what do? You write the topic at the beginning. So say, for example, SPSS and Qualtrics, these are what? Marketing research tools. So what do? You write down marketing research, and then you mention the software. So through this, what are you doing over here? So if the recruiter does not know what Qualtrics is, he would know what marketing research is, right? So write marketing research, colon, then the names of the software, so that the recruiter at least understands that, yes, this is a marketing research software, right? So yeah, that in a nutshell was the structure of the CV. Now, at the very beginning, we talked about the technology in recruitment. This is where you will probably get some new addition. Now, as we have already talked about these hundreds of CVs coming for one vacancy, just think about the recruiter's life. I mean, he definitely has a personal life, first and foremost, and then he has a particular set number of hours to work for the company. Now, just think about the recruitment team. If they have to browse 2,000 CVs for one vacancy, this could take weeks to manually screen all the CVs, right? So this is a very manual effort that we are talking about. Now, slowly, we are moving towards a screening system that is automated, that is totally done with a software. So we call this applicant tracking system, ATS, right? So you will hear this particular concept very often in the very near future. So ATS is a software that automatically screens candidates. So if you say, for example, put in a vacancy for, let's just talk about a vacancy that Bolstar focused on. So recently we focused on the digital marketing officer for Berger Bangladesh Limited. And if you put that up on LinkedIn and BD Jobs, for a digital marketing officer, you will get applications from engineering students, from students who have totally different backgrounds, who are not even related to digital marketing. You'll see tons of students applying for that particular position just because there is a vacancy, right? That's a major problem. So this ATS system has some filters. And using these filters, the ATS system automatically screens out the relevant candidates, right? Now, what are some of these filters? Could be some specific universities, could be specific number of years of working experience, and unfortunately, it can be your CGPA as well, right? So this is by far the easiest way to screen out, say, for example, 200 students among 2,000 people, right? So focusing on 200 CVs is 10 times easier than focusing on 2,000, right? But the tech integration does not end there. We go one step further. So what is that step further? So there is this artificial intelligence system in the ATS platforms. Now, not all ATS has this. Specifically, there are some. And like for confidentiality, I cannot name the companies, but there are multiple companies in Bangladesh who have this artificial intelligence. So what this does is, I'm pretty sure you'll see a job description, right? So on LinkedIn or on BD Jobs, you'll see a job description. So over there, if you just focus on the digital marketing officer that we talked about, say, for example, one of the descriptions could be planning social media KPIs and implementing the strategies. Now, when you mention this word social media, this is in the job description. What this artificial intelligence system does is it matches the job description with the bullets that you have mentioned in your CV. And it automatically ranks all the students within the applicant pool. So say for example, Miss Farhana, 99% match. Mr. Ashik, 93% match. Then say, for example, we have Mr. Samuel, 38% match. Say, for example, recruiter chooses which two candidates? Straight away, you two, right? Ms. Farhana and Mr. Rashik. Why will the recruiter waste his time on a candidate who is just matching 38% with their job description when they have 99 and 93, right? So they match the bullets in the job description with the bullets on your CV, and they create a ranking with this artificial intelligence system saying that this candidate matches your JD by this percentage, and they create a list. Now, what does this list do? It creates a ranking, right? What's your next step? Call the top 10 candidates for the interview, right? Or bring in the top 20 candidates for the next round of assessment, right? So the lives of the HR managers become very easy in that case, right? So just start from the beginning. We started off with 2,000 CVs. We came down to 200, and then we came down to 20 with a totally automatic system. With just one click, this entire process gets done. So why spend weeks to screen out all these CVs manually, right? So that is why it is very important for you people to tailor your CV according to the job that you're applying for. Use the keywords that are mentioned in the job description in your CV. So if the job asks for social media marketing, have the word, what? Say, for example, experienced social media marketer. It could be anywhere. It could be in the professional statement. It could be in your working experience, anywhere you deem necessary, right? So again, coming back to the important point, come up with tailored CVs for the job that you're applying for. Pick the keywords from the job description and put them in your CV. Align your CV according to that, right? So if you're talking about, say, for example, the internship experience that I had. So over there, I did not mention anything about operational excellence, right? Let's just talk about that. So coming up with a streamlined operations that reduces the company's cost, probably out 2 times, and generates a return on investment 3 times, right? So this word, operational excellence, I've not mentioned this in my entire CV. That's a problem. Now, I did mention something about operations, but I did not mention the word operational excellence. If I don't do that, the ATS system will not rank me higher in that ranking, right? So this is how technology automates this entire screening and assessment process. So we have talked about the structure of the CV. We have talked about how this technology works. What's left for you to do is match your CV according to the job description that is targeted for the job. Now, one last thing before we end this structure, which is oftentimes we see that candidates come up with very fancy formats. So these formats are designed in Adobe Illustrator or InDesign and tons of other stuff, right? Oftentimes they design on PowerPoint as well. Do not do these. Do not design your CV. Do not come up with AIs like Adobe Illustrator. Do not come up with InDesign. Do not come up with PowerPoint CVs. Why is that? Because if you do this, the ATS system cannot read your CV, right? So we just talked about the ATS system, right? And since this entire process is streamlined, you need the system to be able to read your CV. So do not come up with these fancy formats, because if you do so, the system will not be able to recognize what is written on that CV. We have seen hundreds of CVs getting rejected because of this. The format was very fancy, it was designed with a lot of different tools. However, the system cannot read these fancy formats. So that is why come up with the simplest version of your CV. Do not design it, and use, again, important one, use use the fonts that are easy and most generally used: Times New Roman, Garamond, and Arial. So other than these three fonts, we do not recommend other fonts, because these are the three fonts that ATS systems can read the most, right? So yeah, that in a nutshell is the workshop from my side. I would like to entertain questions if you have any. I'm pretty sure you should have tons of questions. So over to the moderators if we have any questions or if we have anything next coming up.
Thank you, sir. So now we will start the question answer session. So the first question that came to my mind that, sir, is there any specific like if I have should I add my non-professional interest in my CV too? Sir.
So non-professional interests as in like your hobbies, like music, art, and stuff,
Yes, sir.
don't have them. They do not add any value to your work. Oftentimes you would see people arguing that your hobbies give a dimension of the candidate, like a different side that the work experience or the other things cannot talk about. But we highly recommend focusing on other activities. So work experience, extracurricular activities, these carry more weight. And we do not want you to be wasting space on activities like this.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have also a question. Like,
Yes.
what should be the length of the CV? Like, it's 1 page, 2 page, or any ideal knowledge about this?
All right, so ideally we would want to keep our CV within 2 pages. You should not exceed 2 pages. You would also see some formats that are 1 page, but again, it's just a personal take. I do not recommend that, because when you try to fit in all these activities within 1 page, usually it gets crammed up, and the ATS system, again, oftentimes cannot pick up all the information from that crammed up CV. So have 2 pages. Do not go to the 3rd page. It's highly recommended that you finish the CV within 2 pages.
Sir,
Yeah,
we have another question that how do I write a strong CV if I do not have much experience?
Very good question. Now, this is a problem that a lot of students face, and it is recommended that you have extracurricular activities. You have additional skills that you can talk about. So say, for example, you did a course on content writing, say, for example, at Udemy, right? So that's a skill that you can add to your CV. So if you do not have strong working experience, that's fine. That's not the end of the world, right? So you can always come up with other activities that can cover up that fact. Because at the end of the day, you people would be just freshers. And even companies do not expect you to have 3 or 5 years of experience right after you graduate. I mean, that's unreasonable, right? And if any company does this, don't apply in those companies. You people are better than that, right? So yeah, you can cover up those lack of working experience with part-time experience, extracurricular activities, and additional skills that you attained during your undergrad. I think we missed. I think there was a question right at the beginning.
So we'll be finding it soon. Moving on that, we have another question. What are the keywords of CV and how do I use them?
All right, so 2 important factors. First is the action verbs. So when we write down the bullets, we start with an action verb in the past tense. Say, for example, implemented strategies, like the word implemented, that's an action verb. Then we talk about administered, strategized, planned, organized, and so on. So there is a list of punch action verbs that create an impact. So if you could take the extra effort to go to the business school of Johns Hopkins University. It's called a Carey Business School, Carey. So Carey Business School. Over there, if you go to the career page, you will see that there is a resume template, which I have used on my CV. There is a list of action verbs, and there is a cover letter template. So those are your starting points. So first is use those action verbs that create an impact. And second is use the keywords that are on the job description. Because if the company has an ATS system, these keywords mentioned in the job description in your CV would have a great impact. So two things: focus on the action verbs and focus on the keywords mentioned in the job description. So, yeah.
We have got another question from Maliha Mamutaz Tamima, and she is asking, Sir, could you please mention what do employers want to see in my CV?
All right. So the employers want to see that you fit into what they want. So it doesn't matter how skilled you are, doesn't matter if you have extraordinary experience. They have a certain position and they need certain skills to fulfill that vacancy, right? So if you have those specific skills that are required to fulfill that vacancy, they will hire you. So again, come up with experiences, skills, software skills, anything that would help you carry out the functions mentioned in that job description.
Sir, we have another question from Shonak Manik. Sir, what is the difference between CV, resume, and biodata?
All right, CV and resume, these two words are used very interchangeably, but a very slim, like a hair margin difference would be oftentimes recruiters denote CVs as a detailed version and resumes as short versions. So oftentimes, say for example, let us just choose an example. Say for example, one of our 4 dean sirs are writing their CVs, right? Now, they cannot write their working experience within 2 pages, right? So in that case, they would need a more detailed version because they have a longer story to tell, right? So in that case, we say that the CV needs to be detailed. But when we're talking about resume, usually it's a shorter version of the CV, oftentimes 1 page. But still, we use the two words very interchangeably in the industry. And biodata is an entirely different document. So over there, you have your personal experiences, not experience, apologies, the personal information, like your name, your father's name, your mother's name, your date of birth, your height, your blood group, your uncle's name, your auntie's name, tons of other stuff. So those are your background information, right? So biodata is an entirely different document. So you do not need that for your professional career. So yeah. Ma'am, I think you're muted.
Sorry, sir. Fariha Tasnim is asking, what are the common mistakes people make in their CVs?
All right, so there are tons. First one is inconsistent format. I'll just start from the very top. So inconsistent format, pictures that are not taken in a studio setup. So a professional photo, it should be, right? You do not take photo in front of the external affairs office. I've seen hundreds of CVs who have that picture. So make sure that you have a very clean monocolor background and a straight portrait of your headshot, right? If your photo is not professional, it's better not to have a photo at all. So the order of importance is have a studio picture, have no photo, and then right at the very end, if you don't have anything, don't put anything. But at least do not take a photo and put on your CV. That is not professional. that probably has a background with trees, that has background with your Office of External Affairs. Don't do that. So that goes through your photo. After that, in the professional statement, we see a lot of people using the words I, me, mine, and myself. Don't use these words. When you're writing down your email address, after you're done typing it, when you click enter, usually you see there's a hyperlink under your email ID. So right after clicking enter, type Control Z, right? If you do that, the hyperlink gets removed. You do not want an unnecessary underline under your email address. So after you click the enter, after writing the email address, you will see the hyperlink. So write Control Z and the hyperlink is taken out. Then finally, we see people, again, not talking about their CGPA, which reveals a totally different weakness. And you talk about language, another very important thing. So language is English, Bangla, speaking, reading, writing, proficiency in all these different levels. Don't have them, because recruiters understand that you're just trying to fill up that page. This is not something that adds additional value. If you know French, if you know German, if you know Mandarin, they add different sort of value. Only then you can have language. So if you're talking about Bengali and English, don't have language skills in your CV. And last but not the least, at the very end, we see people mentioning personal details. So my name, my father's name, my mother's name, don't have these. One last, apologies. References, very important. Do not use references of people who were not your direct supervisors. So we see a lot of CVs writing down references of their uncles or their fathers or their elder brothers who never supervised their work. Don't do that. So if there's a lecturer who has known you really well, take that reference. If you worked under someone under your part-time working experience, have that reference. Right? So that in a nutshell is some of the mistakes that we regularly see. So yeah.
Sir, moving on that, we have another question from Sarah Kubi. What happened when just my work experience ends taking up 3/3 or 4th of the page? How many pages is too many pages for a CV?
So anything beyond 2 pages is too long. So you're going to have to make sure that you finish your CV within the 2 pages that we have just talked about. Unfortunately, we are still not at the levels of our dean sirs to have 3 or 4 or 5 pages of CVs. So it is ideally recommended that you finish your CV within 2 pages. Now over here, again, you will have to understand which part of your CV is important. If 3 or 4 working experiences are more important than your extracurricular activities, don't have extracurricular activities at all. So you will have to understand which part of your CV carries more weight and just include them so that it ends within 2 pages.
The next question is from Nafisa Anjum, and she is asking, if I have any unexplained gaps in my studies, how should I present it on my CV?
All right, so over there, we may have 2 reasons. One is personal, the other is professional. If it's a personal reason, you're not required to talk about this. Even if the interviewer asks for it, the interviewer is not obliged to get an answer from you if it's a personal reason, right? If an interviewer still probes you further, you can straight away walk out of the interview room. Because even if you're jobless, you don't want to get into a job where your supervisor does not respect your private life. So if it's a personal question, if it's a personal reason why your work experience or an education has a gap, do not even mention it. Just say it's a personal reason. If it's a professional reason, you can definitely talk about it. You can say that I needed to gain some working experience because you can be honest. My family was not, for example, financially solvent enough. So I had to take my education slow. I had to get involved into some part-time working experience, and I had to support my education or my family. this is a reason that you can talk about because it's a professional reason. So professional reasons, you can talk about them. Personal reasons, don't.
Thank you, sir. Up next, we have another question from Mufrad. I am working on a research paper that is not published yet. Can I add it in my CV?
Absolutely, sir, you can. So if I'm not wrong, either you're working as a research assistant or you are one of the authors of the publication. Now, if this publication is not published in any journal, in that case, you can write down the heading, and after that, in brackets, you can mention under review, right? Because these journals go through a very long, time-consuming, rigorous process of review, right? So mention the topic, in bracket, write down under review, right? I think that would help.
So we have also got a question from Sarah Kabir, and she is asking, can we add the languages we are fluent in on a working capacity in our CVs?
All right, so if it is English or Bengali, not recommended. If you have an IELTS score that is decent enough, you can definitely talk about it. So again, this certification that yes, I am a certified good English speaker, right? How do you get that? Through that IELTS score. So if you have an IELTS or a TOEFL, then you can talk about your language skills. If you have, say, for example, experience in writing Bengali literature, right? You have probably published a book, or you have a personal website where you write down poems, which is widely revered by your peers, you can have that. You can talk about your Bengali literature skills. Other than these, don't talk about your language skills.
Thank you, sir. Up next, we have another question from Sidratul Mumtanaha. Sir, could you please tell me how important is it to use strong words to write CV?
It's very important, ma'am. So even if you, I guess by now you already understand how words impact your credibility in an ATS system. So I'm pretty sure you understand that. Even if it is a manual screening process, these action verbs, they have a lot of impact on the minds of the reader, right? So you want to have action-packed action verbs so that they create an impact in the reviewer's mind. So yes, these action verbs, they carry a lot of weight. Now, on the flip side, do not end up using complicated words to, I would just say it, to show off your skills. Like we have seen tons of examples where candidates want to show that they are very proficient in English language. And they end up using very complicated words that recruiters don't even understand. So don't do that. You want to show simplicity, yet you want to show the authority over these words. So do not choose like plain and simple words. Do not choose utterly complex words that the reviewers cannot understand.
Our next question is from Mr. Adnan, and he is asking, what if a new graduate do not know any softie related to his or her industry?
It would be great if Ms. Sakline could explain what a softie is. I'm not sure what that means. If I'm assuming it correctly, it's just a plain and simple assumption. It is soft skills, probably. I think that's the best that I can guess. Now, if your soft skills do not have certificate, don't talk about it. So I can clearly say that I have a certification on leadership because I have had experience from Bangladesh Youth Leadership Center. That's a certificate that I can talk about. I have demonstrated leadership experience and I have a certificate to show for it. So only then I can talk about my leadership, right? Other than that, do not just say that you have leadership skills. If you have a certificate on teamwork, kudos, you can use that. So make sure you have a certificate on that soft skill.
Okay, sir. Moving on that, we have another question from Khantija Nur Malik. Sir, is it mandatory to use passport photographs for CV, or any formal photo with a decent enough background would be just fine?
So any formal photo with a decent background works. So again, the definition of decent, you need to be specific about that. So a monocolor background and a proper headshot. So that is all that we need. It doesn't have to be a studio portrait. So again, clear headshot, monocolor background. Another thing is make sure that the background and you are contrasting each other. So let me just give you an example. So at this moment, my background is on the white side of things, and I'm wearing a dark colored shirt. So this is a proper contrast. So make sure that you have this particular contrast in your photo.
So we have a question from Mashfia Rahman. Sir, how can we make our LinkedIn profile exceptional?
Very good question. That actually warrants a totally different new workshop. So I'll just briefly explain it as briefly as I can. So the first sentence of your LinkedIn. So the sentence that people see even before they get into your LinkedIn profile, that should be top notch, right? So oftentimes because of that sentence, people will see your LinkedIn. So make sure that that particular line has a unique value proposition, right? That's one. Number two is in the skills part. Make sure you put in the skills that the job description is asking for. So if the job description says you need skills in Microsoft Excel, put that in your Excel skills. Because at the end of the LinkedIn profile, you will see that there is a section for skills. So input that skill, Microsoft Excel. It could be Qualtrics, it could be SPSS, it could be social media marketing, it could be search engine optimization. So depending on what the job description asks for, make sure you have that skill in your LinkedIn, because trust me when I say this, I have used that ADS system. I see that the systems pick up these skills from your LinkedIn profile. So make sure that you have these skills at the very bottom of your LinkedIn profile. And the other parts are pretty much self-explanatory. You come up with your working experience, you come up with your extracurricular activities, educational institutions, and so on.
Sir, up next, we have another question from Sanjida Sultana. Sir, do I need to include a career objective section in my CV? What are the information that is to be mentioned in this section?
Yes, it is very important for you to mention this career objective, because that is the first point of contact between you and the interviewer. And use the career objective to talk about things that you cannot describe at the sections below, because those other sections are just bullet pointers. You will not be able to talk about your long-term vision, your expectations from your working experience, your preference of working culture. So you are better suited to a structured environment, or you're better suited to a more vibrant corporate culture. You can mention these in your career objective. So things that you need to mention in your career objective, again, is hard skill, soft skill, and what you bring for the recruiter. So, yeah.
We have a question from Sumaya Dina, and she's asking, Sir, is the objective section mandatory? Can I skip it? If I don't have any experience, then what do I add to that section?
All right, ma'am. So first thing first, it is mandatory to have this career objective section. You cannot skip it. And if you do not have experience, you still have a lot to talk about. Again, as I've mentioned, it is literally a myself essay that you're talking about in a structured format. I'm pretty sure you can write a lot about yourself. So what you've done during your undergrad, the extracurriculars that you've participated in, what you expect from your working environment, that is also something that you can talk about. So definitely have a career objective section, no doubt about it.
Okay, sir, moving on that, we have another question from Sylvia Sonorita. Sir, what should I highlight in my CV that will attract the reader most? Should I give my CV a simple look or decent, decorated it more?
All right, so there are two parts over here. First one is what you should highlight in your CV to attract the reader the most. The first thing that you can do is have a very simple and clear format. So if you see the format that I have used over there, if you just give that a balcony look, right? So say, for example, you're looking something down from the balcony. You're not reading anything, right? Straight away, you will see there are distinct sections in your CV, and you can absolutely differentiate them, right? So this outlook is very important, right? And simplicity is actually gorgeousness in this case, because if you have a simple and consistent format, this is firstly more impactful. Secondly, the ATS system can read your CV better. So if it's a decorated CV, the ATS will not be able to read your CV. Simplicity, again, is the best policy.
There's a question from Shahriar Tamim. Is it mandatory to attach a cover letter with CV?
Super question. With your CV, you are not required to attach a cover letter until and unless the company specifically asks for it. So otherwise, if you are applying through email body is your chance to mention the things that you would have mentioned in the cover letter, right? So over there, you have to write something. This is the, how do I put it? One of the most depressing matters, which is like we have seen examples where candidates do not mention the subject line, let alone the body of the email. Don't do that, right? Mention a very good subject line. Oftentimes the companies mention that this is the subject line that you need to mention. After that, use the email body to talk about the thing that you would have written in the cover letter. Another thing, this is like fresh in my memory because I've just seen it a couple of days ago. So there was this candidate who was applying to multiple companies, and he had one particular email body. He wrote "Dear Sir/Ma'am," and he wrote one consistent email body to apply for all the jobs. That's fine. But what that candidate did was he put in all the email addresses in the to section, right? Now, the HR manager of Unilever sees that you have also applied at Marico. How does that look, right? That does not look professional at all, right? So that was a very interesting example that we have seen. Take the extra effort to send in separate emails to separate companies and mention in the email body the things that you have mentioned in the cover letter. Until and unless the company doesn't ask for the cover letter, don't have a separate attachment with the CV.
Up next, we have a question from Turag. What is the importance of cover page?
Cover page, I'm not sure what that is. So if you're talking about the first page of your CV, it is with a lot of information. We do not have like a specific cover page for a CV. So like I'm pretty sure you would write reports for your different assignments, right? So over there you can come up with a cover page, but for your CV, cover page is not required if that's what you're referring to. So if there is any understanding in my lack of understanding in my evaluation of the comment, do let me know, sir.
Sir, Samia Anmona is asking, what would be the most important part of a CV? Educational qualifications or the professional experience?
Now, this varies from job to job. So if you are a fresher that is applying to a company that is not asking for working experience, in that case, educational qualification carries more weight. However, on top of educational qualification, if you have some working experience, that's the best case scenario. So if you have both, mention educational qualification first, then you can move down to professional experience. Again, design your CV according to decreasing order of importance. So if you are a fresher or if you have working experience between 0 to 3 years, education first, then working experience.
Sir, thank you. Moving on that, we have another question from Lubaba. Sir, can you please share the information about how many references are required for the CV?
2 is the ideal number. So just have 2 references. One thing that you can do is not have 2 references from the same institution. If you can have one referee from each of the companies, that adds more value.
I think we have taken this question before. Can the moderator change the question, please? And take another question? So Faiza Islam is asking, when we apply for jobs, we drop our CV in so many places. Is it okay to add a privacy statement in our cover letter?
Not required, ma'am. So it's just gonna add up like more sentences that are not required. So in your cover letter, you can mention this, but just think for a second. If you have a more worthwhile experience to mention in that particular space, which one are you gonna choose? It's definitely gonna be the additional working experience. So privacy statement, again, personal opinion, don't have it. But if companies ask for it, you can go for it, but not recommended from my side.
Okay, sir. Moving on that, we have another question from Samia Muna. Sir, we often attend several educational skill development workshops and the organizers provide us certificates. Can we add these in a CV? Are these certificates really eligible to be added on?
Yes, you can add these certificates on your CV as long as the company or the institution that is providing these certificates have the permission to run the businesses in the People's Republic of Bangladesh. You can definitely mention them on your CV. Or even if it's a Udemy course, you can definitely mention that. That's totally fine.
Maliha Mohammadaj Tamima is requesting sir to say 5 main things that our CV should include.
Again, ma'am, so there is no hard and concrete rule to that. Again, it is a myself essay and it is your canvas. You're gonna have to find out which 5 things are the most important about you. So professional statement or the career objective, you can have that. Education, you can have that. These 2 are important. And if you have work experience, that would be the 3rd. If you have awards and achievements, that would be 4th. And if you ask me, the 5th would be the extracurricular activities. So these would be the 5 top choices. But again, ma'am, this is your personal essay that you're talking about. So you are the best judge of finding out which 5 carry the highest weight.
I'm seeing that our comment section is flooding with various questions, but for the time limit, we can take any more questions now. So thank you, sir. We could learn a lot from you today. We are really grateful to you for giving us time from your hectic schedule and joining us today.
Pleasure.
Now
Thank you so much.
yes. Now I'd like to give the virtual floor to my co-host to say a few words before ending this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Farhana, once again for giving me the floor. And I would like to give a thanks to our honorable sir to give us the time. And I also like to thank everyone who participated in this session and all the audiences. And I would like to thank you to being with us today. And we really appreciate your presence. Hope to see you again in our further sessions. And we have already promised that we'll be arranging some other career related workshops that will be helpful for us in our future career. And today we have learned a lot of things, and hope we will use these things in our future career, and we enjoy this program as well. So with that, I would like to conclude this session and hope we'll be see you in our future things. So I am Ashik Mohammed Rumi, signing off today. Thank you. Tech Master, can you stop the sharing? Stop the line.